we are just 9 people writing about democracy, human rights.
Ilham Tohti dedicated himself to the truth.
The other kind of death is slow and painful because you experience it every second.
They give him life sentence. Life sentence.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening. Bonsoir à toutes, bonsoir à tous. Merci infiniment de votre présence ce soir. A very, very warm welcome as well as a sincere thank you to you all for your presence here at the University of Geneva or in front of a screen as this 23rd Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defender ceremony is broadcasted live on the internet. So whether in front of a screen or here this evening or day or night, depending on where you are, you will all have the honor and the privilege to support and learn more about the work of 3 outstanding human rights defenders. A ceremony that also opens the Human Rights Week here in Geneva, so we will hear later from the Dean of the University of Geneva, our host tonight. But first, to begin this evening, who else than a key contributor to this Human Rights Week, as well as a professor at the University of Geneva, somebody who's been chair of the Martin Ennals Foundation for several years, and also, it's not the least, twice president of Switzerland. Please welcome Madame Micheline Calmiret.
Monsieur le Haut-Commissaire aux droits de l'homme, Madame la conseillère administrative, Monsieur le recteur, Monsieur le président de la Fondation Martin Ennals, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres du jury, Mesdames et Messieurs les finalistes, chers parlementaires fédéraux, cantonaux, communaux, Excellences, c'est en tant que présidente du comité d'organisation de la Semaine des droits humains que me revient l'honneur de vous accueillir ce soir. L'Université de Genève, avec la collaboration scientifique du Haut-Commissariat aux droits de l'homme, de l'Institut international des droits de l'enfant, organise une telle semaine pour la 4e année consécutive. Et durant toute la semaine, nous nous attacherons à approfondir le thème des acteurs non étatiques et de la gouvernance des droits humains. Laissez-moi vous dire un mot là-dessus. Les acteurs non étatiques disposent d'un poids politique important, vous le savez, dans le monde d'aujourd'hui. Par exemple, le processus d'Ottawa, qui interdit les mines antipersonnelles, n'aurait pas pu aboutir sans l'engagement des organisations non gouvernementales. Quant aux acteurs armés non étatiques, ils sont actifs dans nombre de conflits et ils sont aussi partis à leur résolution. En conséquence, les organisations humanitaires et des droits humains sont de plus en plus amenées à tenter d'influencer leur comportement pour accroître leur compatibilité avec les standards internationaux en matière de droits humains. Mesdames et Messieurs, un colloque académique rassemblera 2 jours durant à partir de demain matin des experts, dont Olivier Roy, qui participera jeudi matin à un panel sur le sujet du rôle des organisations religieuses. Les discussions du colloque sont publiques. Mercredi soir, une conférence sera donnée sur le même thème par une éminente personnalité tunisienne, Yad Benachour, et un échange sera organisé jeudi après-midi avec les étudiants du secondaire de Genève autour d'un film Return to Homes, et ce, en présence de la conseillère d'État Anne-Emery Toracinta. Et la semaine se terminera le 14 octobre par la célébration du Dies Academicus. Mesdames et Messieurs, depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, la protection des droits humains est au centre des préoccupations internationales. Peu à peu, des normes ont émergé qui limitent la marge de manœuvre des États dans le but de protéger les individus. Et les gouvernements sont toujours plus nombreux à prendre des engagements juridiquement contraignants en adhérant aux principales conventions internationales. Et de grands efforts, il est vrai, ont été accomplis avec la mise en œuvre de mécanismes pour juger et pour sanctionner les auteurs de violations. Mais ce qu'on voit en définitive, c'est que malheureusement, l'existence d'obligations juridiques n'emporte pas forcément qu'elles soient toujours respectées. Certains mettent en œuvre l'universalité des droits humains, la liberté d'expression, la liberté religieuse, et que dire, mesdames et messieurs, de celles et ceux qui terrorisent, qui torturent, qui tuent, affirmant que le droit est celui du plus fort et qui font de la violence une règle revendiquée. Ce soir, nous sommes réunis dans cet auditoire pour attribuer un prix, le prix Martin Ennals, qui récompense l'engagement tout entier d'une personne en faveur des droits humains. Les personnes qui luttent pour les droits humains prennent des risques, elles ont besoin de protection, elles sont souvent emprisonnées, elles sont souvent torturées. Et le prix Martin Ennals a pour but de protéger ces défenseurs des droits humains partout dans le monde en leur donnant une visibilité et une publicité. Permettez-moi, en conclusion, de remercier de sa présence le commissaire aux droits de l'homme, son Excellence Zeid Ra'ad Al-Hussein. Il perpétue une tradition établie en acceptant de participer à cette cérémonie et de nous parler du respect des droits humains. Mesdames et messieurs, je suis très heureuse ce soir de pouvoir vous compter parmi celles et ceux qui soutiennent les défenseurs des droits humains et je vous remercie de votre présence et de votre attention. Je donne la parole à notre hôte de ce soir, le recteur Ilham Tohti. Merci.
Monsieur le haut-commissaire des Nations Unies aux droits de l'homme, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des organisations internationales, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Madame la conseillère administrative, Monsieur le Président du Conseil municipal, Monsieur le Président de la Fondation Martin Ennals, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres du jury de la Fondation Martin Ennals, Mesdames et Messieurs les finalistes, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, Genève est une ville profondément marquée par l'humanisme, par la défense des droits humains, par ce que Robert de Tra a nommé l'esprit de Genève, un mélange subtil de Calvin, de Rousseau et de Dunant. Ville de refuge, ville de justice, mais aussi ville de charité. Elle est devenue la ville des organisations internationales, la ville des accords de Genève. Elle est et elle demeure un symbole de paix, de dialogue et de démocratie. Son université est bien évidemment imprégnée de ses principes et de ses valeurs. Elle entend les porter haut et fort, aussi bien par ses recherches que par son enseignement. Car, mesdames et messieurs, ces deux missions fondamentales de notre université sont avant tout des dialogues. Et je suis profondément convaincu que la recherche et l'enseignement ensemble ne peuvent réellement exister que dans la paix et dans la démocratie pour être un véritable rempart contre toute forme de fanatisme. Au-delà de ces évidences, notre université souhaite être actrice de la propagation de cet esprit de Genève. Il n'y a pas de hasard si l'un de nos tout premiers MOOCs, ces fameux cours en ligne ouverts, massifs et gratuits, si visibles internationalement, ont été consacrés précisément aux droits humains. Il n'y a pas de hasard non plus si nous avons accueilli avec enthousiasme le Centre interfacultaire des droits de l'enfant ou si nous soutenons fortement les initiatives de nos collaboratrices et de nos collaborateurs dans le projet InZone. Ce n'est pas non plus un hasard que nous avons cette année ouvert aux réfugiés qui sont présents à Genève un programme Horizon académique pour donner espoir à toutes ces personnes qui sont ici dans notre canton, dans notre ville et qui trouvent dans cette issue académique une possibilité de s'insérer totalement dans notre société. Il n'y a pas de hasard non plus si notre université est désormais l'hôte récurrente de la cérémonie des remises des prix du Martin Ennals, cet événement majeur dans le domaine de la promotion de la paix et de la défense des droits humains. C'est donc un très grand honneur pour moi et un plaisir pour moi et pour notre université de vous accueillir aujourd'hui pour cette cérémonie. En ouvrant, comme cela a été dit tout à l'heure, la Semaine des droits humains, la remise de cette distinction constitue non seulement le premier des rendez-vous que nous proposons sur cette thématique chère à notre université, Elle rappelle aussi de manière très concrète et volontaire que les femmes et les hommes qui mènent le combat contre la violation des droits fondamentaux de leurs contemporains se doivent d'être célébrés et encouragés afin de pouvoir poursuivre leur lutte. Je remercie tout particulièrement nos partenaires dans la ville et l'État de Genève pour la cérémonie. J'aimerais terminer mon allocution de bienvenue en vous invitant aux autres événements qui vont marquer cette semaine des droits humains, et en particulier le colloque consacré demain et après-demain aux acteurs non étatiques et de la gouvernance des droits humains. Et bien sûr notre Dies Academicus qui aura lieu ce vendredi et qui va clore cette semaine particulière sur les droits humains. Et puis finalement une conférence demain soir qui a été aussi mentionnée de M. Ben Achour sur l'islam en Europe. Vous trouverez d'ailleurs le programme complet de cette semaine sur le site de l'Université de Genève que je vous invite à visiter. J'ai le plaisir maintenant de passer la parole à M. Dick Hosting, le président de la Fondation Martin Ennals. Merci beaucoup de votre attention.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to recognize the work of 3 outstanding human rights defenders. They have been selected by our jury of 10 human rights organizations from among many impressive nominees. In the end, we bring that down to only 1 laureate, but I want to highlight that each year there are 3 finalists who represent the best among human rights defenders worldwide. And we will continue to work with and for all 3 of them to help highlight and support their case and their cause. The Martin Ennals Award exists to help protect human rights defenders, people who fight for the rights of others, often at great personal risk. This year's finalists and their families have paid a particularly high personal cost. By raising their profile publicly, we want to show international solidarity and provide them with some protection. Your participation tonight is important in that effort. So let me welcome and introduce this year's finalists and their representatives. You've seen their pictures all over town for quite some time, so this may not be entirely new, I hope, but you will come to know them through their film portraits much better, and then finally in their own words. Unfortunately, only 1 of our 3 finalists is able to be here in person, and I would like to welcome Zelalem Kebret-Beza. Difficult to see from here. There he is. Zelalem is one of the Zone 9 bloggers from Ethiopia. Severe restriction of civil society's space to express itself is what led 9 courageous young human rights defenders in that country to use social media to counter the trend, and they paid the price for it. Of their number, 3 are outside the country as refugees, and until recently, all 6 remaining in Ethiopia were banned from travel. They were all facing a range of criminal charges for exercising their right to free speech. We're glad to see that Zelalem and 1 other have been allowed to travel, as there are currently no charges pending against them. We hope that that will remain so, but the future is uncertain for them, of course. Zelalem, we're very happy to have you with us today. And then the families of Ilham Tohti and Razan Zaitouneh. Johar Ilham has been an outspoken advocate on behalf of her father at an age where she should only have to concentrate on her university studies. She's accompanied by Professor Elliot Sperling, a friend and colleague of her father's. Johar is here because her father is serving a life sentence in China. He called for the rights of his community, the Uyghurs, to be respected, and that was enough to be convicted. The irony and the tragedy of the situation is that by eliminating moderate voices like Ilham Tohti's, the Chinese government in fact creates space for the very extremism it says it wants to prevent and eradicate. It is our great pleasure to have both of you here. And then finally, a heartfelt welcome to Razan Zaitouneh's sister Rana and her husband, and to Mazen Darwish, who worked with Razan closely in Syria. Razan was taken by an armed group in Syria late 2013, along with her husband and 2 colleagues. Nothing has ever been clear about their situation, although there have been signs that they are alive. Rana has worked tirelessly to keep the public aware of her sister's case. Razan worked closely with Mazen Darwish, who was himself imprisoned for a number of years by the Syrian government. If there is one thing that is needed in the complex Syrian conflict, it is impartial and precise information about the perpetrators of gross abuses. Razan was certainly abducted to prevent this. We're very grateful to have you here tonight to present Razan. As these things go to more mundane matters, I would like to acknowledge our donors. They provide us with financial support, but also credibility. The decision to donate to this kind of organization sends a strong signal that the protection of human rights defenders is important and that the Martin Ennals Award plays a role in that effort. Geneva is the world capital of human rights. Excuse me. So it is right that this award is presented here. We're grateful for the support from the Swiss Confederation, the Canton and Republic of Geneva, a private Geneva foundation, and our partner, the city of Geneva, who host the ceremony together with the university. I would like to thank in particular Councillor Sandrine Salerno, who has championed this partnership with the city and who will speak later. This is also an international award as reflected by our international donors who are known for supporting human rights. At the moment, the governments of Ireland, the Netherlands, Liechtenstein, Spain, and Norway through the Human Rights House Foundation. And there are other funders like Brood für die Welt. Why do they support us? It is, I think, and we all believe and rejoice the fact that we have a jury of 10 major human rights NGOs that provide solidity and unique credibility to the Martin Ennals Award. That credibility has provided real protection, and not just through this one moment of the award. And we know this because our previous laureates and finalists tell us so. You've seen the names up on the screen, and I will just mention them very briefly. Human Rights Watch, Human Rights First, Frontline Defenders, International Federation for Human Rights, FIDH, the International Service for Human Rights, Huridocs, Evangelisches Werk für Diakonie und Entwicklung, EWDE, the International Commission of Jurists, the World Organization Against Torture, and of course Amnesty International, which Martin Ennals led from 1968 to 1980. And on a personal note, I might add that I had the privilege of working very closely with Martin as his deputy during the last 3 years of his tenure as Amnesty's first Secretary General. It was not easy to choose the 3 finalists, and not simple to designate the laureate from among them. The ceremony is meant to highlight the work of all 3, but at the same time, one is selected as the laureate. And I want to select the jury for undertaking that difficult and sensitive work. Our 3 finalists were informed yesterday, as soon as that final decision was taken, of who is the laureate. As it happened, the news was broken overnight accidentally by one of the agencies, so many of you will already know by now as well. Nonetheless, I want to congratulate Ilham Tohti on being selected as the 2016 Martin Ennals Laureate. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting these courageous people.
Thank you for these words, Dick. Thanks. So we'll go on now with this ceremony during which, as I said, you will be introduced to the 3 nominees and their work. And as Dick explained, all 3 will receive an award and, of course, your applause. But first, to better understand what this award is all about, what this ceremony exactly means, here is a brief film about Martin Ennals, its founder, so that you will better know, as I said, have a better knowledge of who he was and what he did for human rights.
We criticize universally because human rights are universal, even if they're universally disregarded. think there is less cynicism about human rights in a curious way than there was. There is still double talk, double standards. There always will be. We can never be out of date. There will always be infringements of human rights. And the work which we are doing is part of the overall pattern of human development. Whatever the political system, whatever the country, whatever the cultural background, whatever the religion.
So, let me now introduce you to the first nominee. They come from Ethiopia, and they have named themselves Zone 9 bloggers, and that in reference to Kality prison in Ethiopia, which holds 8 zones and holds many journalists and political prisoners. So 9 young activists decided to call themselves Zone 9 as a symbol for Ethiopia as a whole. They document on human rights abuses and shed light on the situation of political prisoners in Ethiopia. 6 so far of its members were arrested and charged with terrorism. And although they have now been released, 3 are in exile, and 4 of the 6 remaining in Ethiopia are still facing charges and are banned from travel. As we did for Martin Ennals, here's a short film on their work in Ethiopia.
There had been journalists in prison charged of terrorism, like 18 years, 14 years, convicted. But when you started writing on internet, it was just a honest interest on what's going on in the country. We didn't really thought that we had been surveilled and that the government would take us seriously. The name is derived from the bigger prison in Ethiopia, which is Kality. The prison has 8 zones. When we visit one of the political prisoners in Zone 8, she told us they call the other part of the country Zone 9 as it's a bigger prison. That date we decided, okay, let's call our bloggers collective Zone 9.
The security forces responded with firepower and a wave of political arrests. At least 30 civilians were reportedly shot dead in June. These pictures provide evidence of large roundups. The demonstrators are saying, save us, as they are led away.
People often refer to us as journalists and bloggers. But everybody in Zone 9 has some sort of profession. Blogging and activism was a part-time job, actually. We are exercising our rights. That's the basic thing. As any citizen, I mean, it could be a doctor or a politician or somebody from the streets. Everybody has the right that's enshrined in the Constitution, so we are doing that.
እንደ ቅንጦት የሚወስዱትም አሉ እንደ ቅብጣት የሚወስዱት አሉ ለምን አርፋችሁ ቁጭ አትሉም ስንጽፍ አሁን ለምሳሌ ለምን አርፋችሁ ቁጭ አትሉም የሚሉ ሰዎች አሉ ግን ያ ማለት በቃ አንድ ሰው መጨረሻ ትንሿ መብት ናት ብዬ ነው ማስበው ሐሳቡን መግለጽ በመግለጹ አንድ ሰው መታሰር የለበትም ማንኛውም ሰው የትም ሀገር ሆነ የትም ሀገር ማለት ነውና ግን አብዛኞቹ ሰዎች እንዴት ነው የሚረዱት ለምን አርፋችሁ አትቀመጡም ለምን አርፈሽ አትቀመጭም ነው የሚሉት ምክንያቱም ብዙ ሰው እየጻፈ ሲታሰር ስለሚታወቅ እኔን ያሰረኝን አካል ሳይሆን ብዙ ሰው እየጠየቀ ያለው አንቺ ለምን አርፈሽ አትቀመጭም ነው የሚለው እና ይሄ ደግሞ ያው ለሚያስረው አካል እንደ እድሜ ማራዘሚያ ነው የምቆጥረው
The Ethiopian government is well known in cracking the private media. The public have no other choices than the government media outlets. Therefore, I personally believe that there should be something else that people can interact with each other and get some information. And I can contribute for that endeavor.
Before we came as a collective, we work as individual. All of my friends used to blog to encourage people who were imprisoned for freedom of speech. So it was our common goal to visit them and to speak out for them. So we create like a family in social media.
We are just 9 people writing about democracy, human rights, and social issues that affect our lives. To meet with other bloggers makes you feel that you are not alone. It makes you feel that the community is growing bigger and bigger by the time. So you feel that you make differences at the end of the days.
When time lapses, we start to feel the heat, and we believe that we may be targeted and we may end up in jail. That's what happened actually.
That was my first time in prison. Torture. It was indescribable. I was just telling myself that it will pass.
I was thinking about people who has passed through that chamber in other regions, including this one. So that kept me brave.
Even in times of trying in the torture chambers, you meet a lot of people whose humanity is more giving hope to your heart than the ones who damage you. So the people who help you after interrogation, and even the policemen who show some kind of humanity and kindness to you, will give you hope that in the future everyone cares about the human safety, and that's I think something to treasure.
እዛ ይመጣሉና በጣም በሚገርም ሁኔታ በጣም ብዙ ሰው ነው የሚመጣውና አሁን ለምሳሌ እዛ ሲያስገድዱን ወይም ሲመቱን እዛ እንዲእመኑ ይያሉ ሲመቱን ፍርድ ቤት ሄደን እነሱን ሳይ እኔ አሁን ለምሳሌ እነሱን ሳይ በቃ እዛ እነሱ ደግሞ ብርታት ሆኖኝ ይሄዳሉና በቃ ድብደባውን ምችለው በእነሱ ነው እሱ ትልቅ ብርታት ሆኖኛል ብዬ አስባለሁና ውጪ ደግሞ ስለኛ እንደሚወራ ምናምን ስንሰማ በቃ እኛ እንዲያውም ምን ብዬ አስባለሁ ከታሰርም በኋላ ነው በብዛት እየሰራን ያለው ምክንያቱም ስለኛ መታሰር በተወራ ቁጥር ምን ያክል ሀገሪቷ አፋኝ ህግ እንዳላት ያሳየን ነው ስለዚህ ታስረንም ካምፔን ያደርግን ነው ብዬ አስብ ነበር
We learned that there's nothing small for government as long as it's not the idea that they wanted to advocate. You know, whatever initiative you have, dictator regimes like Ethiopian government doesn't see it easily.
I'm totally amazed by why people get angry because somebody else has expressed his opinion writing. I didn't get why because they can reply, they have equal opportunity to say what they want to say. So it's so totally a complicated matter for me.
I don't even get how that undermines constitutional order and how it is found an act of terrorism, or how it is suspected as something that promotes terrorism.
We asked the government to respect the constitution. That led us to jail, which is clearly unconstitutional.
There will not be such a time that I will stop writing, because we have to create a platform for public discourse. It's not something that you can achieve in my age or in this certain period of time. Rather, it's a certain continuum. So I believe that there is no time to stop.
I'm very proud of Zone 9 and what I did in general, because now I even though it's very insignificant, I know that I've tried my best given the circumstances. I knew it's very hard to speak out against the government in Ethiopia, and I didn't remain quiet.
We sacrificed something for this process, but we sacrificed it for not the tool, not for Facebook or not for the blog. We sacrificed it for the bigger idea of asking questions, raising issues, and saying whatever we wanted to say, because we do have both a human and constitutional right given. So I think it's worth it. Yeah, I think so.
Member of Zone 9 bloggers, please welcome now on stage Mr. Zelalem. Please come on stage, join me. He will be handed his award by Madame Sandrine Salerno, member of the City Council of Geneva, both her and the city being deeply involved in making this ceremony possible. Please.
I never been in this large audience, so I may be a bit nervous, so hope you will understand. I may repeat some facts that already saw, but I will try to speak. I will try to speak more about Ethiopia than Zone 9. First, I want to thank the Martin Ennals award team and the city of Geneva for having us to this prestigious award, and for selecting us as a finalist for 2006 Martin Ennals Award, along with the wonderful Razan, Zaitouneh, and Ilham Tohti. It's really an honor to be a finalist in this prestigious award, and I want to extend my congratulations to Ilham's family that he's being this year's laureate. I hope this award may have an impact on his relates. It's better to hope always, I think. Fortunately, unlike Razan and Ilham, I am able to represent my blogging collective and attend the ceremony, as you see. However, coming to this event was not an easy ride. It's not because Geneva is a light year away from Ethiopia, or I traveled with a horse, or I failed to do with my visa process on time. Rather, it's because we have a government who doesn't like dissenters. It's because we have a government who doesn't like journalists and activists. It's because we have a government who sees anyone asking to respect his or her own constitutional right as an enemy. I'm lucky to be here because 5 of my fellow bloggers are still waiting for another round of a marathon trial in which they are expected to appear in court in 10 days' time, while 3 of my colleagues were forced to exile and now end up as refugees. At this juncture, it's better to ask for anyone why this is happening in Ethiopia. The answer is not complicated as you think. Rather, it's because that presently in Ethiopia, the mere fact that people are asking the government to respect its own laws is considered as a misdemeanor. While I'm standing here at this podium to speak, thousands of Ethiopians are languishing in jail for having different political stand. Government-inflicted death is becoming a day-to-day phenomenon. The repercussion of expressing dissenting opinions is enormous, and so on and so forth. Let me take you back to 2012. Back in May 2012, when our blogging collective, Zone 9, was established, we were dreaming to open a platform that helps the ongoing public discourse in our country, Ethiopia. As our dreams comes true, we were able to establish a vibrant blog and a team of activists who write and campaign about Ethiopia, constitutionalism, rights, and many more issues. Until 6 of us, along with 3 of our friends, end up in jail and 3 of our fellow bloggers exiled. In prison, we suffered torture, accused of terrorism, and forced to face long, unending remand trials. Some of us released suddenly, including me. Some of us released after a short trial. But the regime's stress of hunting citizens who disagree with itself was not quenched by our suffering in prison and exile. To add an insult to the injury, they confiscated our travel documents for no reason. Currently, 4 of my colleagues can't be able to travel because their travel document is still under confiscation. To make the long story short, the regime in Ethiopia is trying to make our life hard. But this story of ours is not ours alone. Rather, it's the tip of an iceberg. To have a glimpse of what's going on in Ethiopia, it's enough to rewind back to last week. It was last week, hundreds of Ethiopian Oromo pilgrims has been killed in what history will remember it as the Irrecha massacre, which caused by an irresponsible act of the regime. It was last week, one of Ethiopia's prominent blogger and academic, Syum Tashum, was thrown to jail, and until this time, no one knows why he is jailed. So far, no explanation is also given from the government. It was last week that one of the members of our blogging collective, Nathaniel Fellega, was thrown back to detention for talking politics in a restaurant and bailed out after a short trial. It was last Sunday the Ethiopian government declares a state of emergency for the first time in 25 years, and the whole never respected substantive and procedural rights are announced to be frozen legally. The list is bottomless. The grossness of human rights violation is appalling. As I speak before you now, Ethiopians are protesting everywhere. Killing, maiming, and jailing protesters is now becoming the new normal. Every day is a day of new horrors and horrendous news. However, in spite of what happened to us and the situation our country is facing, we remain faithful to our dream. We start blogging with a motto of "We blog because we care." And here, we reaffirm our dream. Yes, we will continue to blog because we care. Finally, allow me to show solidarity with those Ethiopians who are killed by day and suffering by showing this solidarity gesture. Thank you.
Zelalem, stay on stage with me. Merci. Yeah, we had the finalists, we had the speech, but we missed on the award, so this is done now. So our second outstanding human rights defender who is honored this evening is Razan Zaitouneh from Syria. Razan has dedicated her life to defending political prisoners, documenting violations, and helping others to free themselves from oppression. She founded the Violations Documentation Center, which documents precisely on the death toll and ill treatment in the prison of Syria. She had started to report all sides, to cover all sides in the conflict when she was kidnapped along with her husband and 2 colleagues. It was on December 9th, 2013. And up to now, her whereabouts have remained unknown. Please, let's watch now a film about her work.
The star is something very special to us. We like to sit on the balcony sometimes. I tell her stories. We just look at the stars, name them with stuff that we love. When I decided to leave to Canada, we always write to each other about the stars and how much we miss each other and how much, no matter how far we are, the star is gonna keep us together, keep us close.
Any dictatorship authority should be afraid from Razan or people like Razan. Those people who have the dreams and the vision and have the energy to do and to fight for their work.
Razan always stood out in the human rights community in Syria. I mean, very sort of male-dominated with huge egos. There was always something sort of strange about her because, you know, she was in a way the cat lady. You know, she was always surrounded by cats. She looked very sort of soft, and yet she was doing some of the most courageous work. She was one of the few that did defend communist activists all the way to Islamists. And every time the authorities tried to compromise with her, and when she would have to compromise on certain things, she just refused.
She doesn't like to talk about herself personally, and she likes to share success. If something was not so great or it was negative effect, she might blame herself. She might say I instead of we, whereas we are encouraging people to do better, but I couldn't get this to work.
People should know about Razan because she's the story of the revolution, the story of the dream. She's a sample about the Syrian who want to have better life.
لا تنسوا يوم الأحد العصيان المدني ما راح نبعث أولادنا على المدارس.
When the uprising began, her role just exploded. She started out many of the local coordination committees, the Violations Documentation Center, one of the leading human rights groups. And in a way, it was amazing to see her just sort of play that leadership role and become a symbol for many of the peaceful activists and what the uprising in its early days represented.
I'm trying to research and find some of her articles. A lot of it was lost, so I'm trying to figure out where she posted because she used fake names. And the more you read them, you find more about her and what she's done. That is the part that we don't know about her. I know the part where she's my sister, my friend, but apparently she has another part which is much bigger than that.
Her husband is also very great and wonderful, especially in the beginning of the Arab Spring. We got together, we have many meetings with the youth and talking about the revolution of the uprising, what happened in Tunisia and in Egypt later, and pushing people to do something.
He helped her build bridges between her world and the world, let's say. In a way, she's able, when he's around, to defeat sadness or keep hope there, even in her worst times. وائل يحيط بي من كل جانب، يغمرني كقوس قزح، كنشيد ساحر أجده حيثما التفت، في أقصى لحظات كربي، في أشد لحظات انعتاقي، وكما يغني مرسيل خليفة، مثلما ينبت العشب بين مفاصل صخرة، وجدنا غريبين معا. وائل ساعدني كثيرا لأعيد جسور التواصل مع هذا العالم، وأستعيد توازني الذي كنت أفقده من أحزان الماضي. أنا أحبه جدا.
Especially in the prison, I feel I am strong. I feel I am not alone. Because Razan, she's there working. Even in the, when the torture and feel weak or exhausted, and always remember that Razan was there, and so don't worry, everything will be okay.
This is summer 2013, and she says, look, the situation on the ground here is bad. I'm starting to see violations being committed by some of these armed groups. We did not do a revolution and lost thousands of lives so that we replace the current government with other monsters who would repeat the same injustices. These people have to be held accountable exactly like the regime. I mean, this was her spirit. August, September 2013, she sent me a message and she said, I wanted to let you know I'm receiving threats from some of the local armed groups because of the work she was trying to do at that point, documenting as well some of the abuses by the local armed groups.
At least 3 or 4 people killed daily in the city of Douma. But perhaps this type of death is preferable to the alternative. The other kind of death is slow and painful because you experience it every second.
There's nothing worse than not knowing what happened to her, because we just hear rumors and stories, and now just a dead end after another dead end. So
I think I would be a very different person without her influence. I learned what human rights are and what love really is. With Razan, love meant freedom, and it meant being human, having dignity, and being able to offer a piece of yourself to someone without expecting anything in return at all.
People usually create hero and person like Santa Claus or Papa Noel, as I mentioned. The humanity need those good example and hero. They make the life better even if they are not exist. But in Razan's situation, she's true. It's not a fake story. She's true. She's a great example about all these value.
Our star and our yesterdays, I'll never forget. A lot of days went by and we had a plan, crazy plan, and I never forgot. We cried a lot, but I never cried the same way as we cried together.
So, in Razan's absence, I will now ask her sister, Mrs. Rana Zaitouneh, to come on stage, please. Let me also bring to your attention that in the audience, we have kind of a guest of honor tonight in the person of Mr. Mazen Darwish, whom you heard about. And Mrs. Rana Zaitouneh will be awarded this award by Hans Tullen, president of the Martin Ennals jury. Please come on stage, both of you. There you go. It's heavy, not very practical.
It's one. The Syrian people are one. Because we are all dreaming of a nation where there's no place for revenge or grudges, when the past sorrows be settled at the courts of real justice, besides all ethical, national, and judicial responsibilities becomes fully assigned and taken care of. Only then can we lower the curtains on these dark times of our history that are based on tyranny, hatred, violence, and getting away without being held accountable, so we can put an end to it and never repeat this era ever again. Razan Zaitouneh. Since Razan's disappearance, I have spent hours upon hours with her words, discovering a whole new level of appreciation for the passionate and courageous woman she is. I share some of these words with you today. And moreover, I share her vision of freedom and justice. In each of her articles, we met one of her friends, a young activist, a brave young woman, a child. Every one of them takes me back to Syria, the homeland I have not visited for years. Syria is a home, one full of dreams and courage, but today, it's also full of loss and sadness. Razan is among those who have worked tirelessly towards lifting the layers of pain in order to allow love,
peace, and justice to flow through the land. Her articles, her words, give new meanings to love and freedom, inspiring and restoring hope in many, many people. Razan became a lawyer to defend the ideals that she valued most: justice, peace, and truth. Her alliance is to freedom, freedom from oppression, and freedom from fear. And now her own freedom has been taken. Her voice has been silenced, but her vision for better Syria has not. With every day that passes, despite the pain of not knowing, I feel more and more proud of her. Both through her past words and the admiration of strangers, I'm reminded daily that her work has not been in vain, and that there are people who will continue to stand with and for my sister. It is incredible to me and my family that even through she has been missing for nearly 3 years now, Razan continues to inspire people to stand up against their oppressor in the quest for freedom. I want to thank everyone involved with the Martin Ennals Award for giving this opportunity for us to share our stories and struggle with the world, and for the chance to remind the world of the amazing woman who risked her life to help others. I am very proud to say that this courageous woman is my sister, and I hope that together, not only can we free Razan, but that we can attain, as she has said many, many times, justice without hatred, without revenge. Thank you so much.
Human rights are violated around the world every day, every second, I should add. We all know this, but sometimes we tend to forget it. So we should not. Let's not forget that we wouldn't be here this evening if human rights were respected. Let's not forget that in a real world, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need such a ceremony. But since the world, or rather since the human beings are far from being perfect, we do need such a ceremony. We do need to keep documenting and also reporting on human rights violations. And that's precisely what the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights does every day. And this evening he's with us to hand the 2016 Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defender, and also to share his thoughts on the human rights situation. Please welcome Mr. Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein.
Madam Kalmireh, University Rector, Foundation Chair, Excellencies, colleagues and friends, I am honored by this invitation to speak, which has become a tradition on the occasion of the presentation of the Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defenders by a unique collaboration of 10 of the world's leading human rights NGOs. Our community of human rights activists and workers is formed by hope and empathy, principle, and by the sharing of pain. When we come together, even in a place as generous and filled with fellow feeling as this one, our thoughts are being unsettled. The world is in turmoil, massive, avoidable, entirely unnecessary emergencies are being generated by a wind of hatred and violence sweeping through more and more countries. The situation in eastern Aleppo is simply inhuman. The city is being pounded to rubble by bombs, including indiscriminate incendiary weapons, as schools, hospitals, and water systems are attacked. Tens of thousands of children, women, and men under siege, unable to leave the city, are enduring hell on earth. They are dying, and we can see and hear them dying. The photos of the small, starving, broken bodies of Yemeni children, which have been in the media in recent weeks, are agonizing to see. The humanitarian crisis created by the warfare in Yemen is now one of the worst in the world. Millions of people are suffering from malnutrition and starvation, and, as always, the majority are children and women. The economy and infrastructure of the entire country is devastated. All basic services are in near total collapse. For all of us, I think it is fair to say that our inability to alter this horror is very, very difficult to endure. Syria and Yemen are only two of the many places where the vulnerable people of the world are being betrayed, stripped of their rights to equality, robbed of their rights to speak and act freely, deprived of their rights to fundamental services and opportunities, and their rights to choose. Despite the massive advances that humanity has notched up against poverty and disease, against prejudice, against oppression, millions of people from the manicured avenues of Paris to shanty towns in Peru face injustices every day of their lives. No country in any region has an unblemished record of respect for human rights, and every violation suffered is being inflicted unnecessarily by institutions and authorities which fail to protect their people. In the Americas, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, and here in Europe, I am alarmed by the shrinking space for human rights defenders and civic activism. A narrow and brutal mindset is spreading, which crushes liberty and rights. We need to speak out, to protect our fellow human beings, and because the most effective way to create cohesive, resilient societies is to build a system that protects human dignity and human rights and dignity of every individual. Collectively, we could end poverty, prevent conflict, and make rights real. Humanity has that capacity. But to do so, we must find a way to overcome the narrow mindset that seeks to use warfare for advantage on some national, regional, or global chessboard in more imaginary than real, even to the extent of bombing children in hospitals for assumed territorial or political gain. The mindset which views the pitiless exploitation of human beings, draining the common resources of humanity for private gain, and outright theft as ordinary, even admirable ways to amass wealth. The mindset which would ride to power by stoking the poisonous energy of hatred on the broken destinies of people crushed by discrimination and violence. Dag Hammarskjöld said, and I quote, "To build for man a world without fear, we must be without fear. To build a world of justice, we must be just," end quote. And so we need to be principled, lucid, and vigilant. We must act to the full extent of our ability. And where our action alone is not enough, we must raise the alarm. We must stand for the rights of every individual, including her or his right to criticize authorities. The Martin Ennals Award is a powerful example of that advocacy for human rights defenders and civil society actors around the world. It reminds us that although individually none of us can save the world, all of us can serve the world. And together we have impact. It takes moral courage, but like the human rights defenders we are here to support and honor, we can stand up for others, voice the common good, act to support inclusion, equality, and human dignity. We can guide our actions by our principles. I am convinced that service to our fellow human beings benefits all of us, that it constitutes the only meaningful way to live. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General designate, has said, and I quote, "We are bound by our shared duty towards the people we serve and to whom we must deliver protection, assistance, and solutions," end quote. Tonight's ceremony stands for that bond of shared duty, for the work we do to protect the rights of human rights defenders. It is work that is unceasing. We are honored to do it, honored by the example of courage, decency, and moral depth which are demonstrated by these and many other human rights defenders around the world, and which give us hope. I thank you so much.
And we will now proceed with a film on Ilham Tohti and his work.
Everything in my life changed. Everything. My personality, my family, my studies, even my friends. I'm living like a different person.
其实新疆的主要矛盾不是反恐问题，也不是恐怖主义问题，新疆的主要矛盾是权力问题，权力的不平等，权力被这些既得利益集团控制和垄断，而这种权力资源的垄断，通过这个它垄断了各种发展的资源，包括社会资源。那么，所以
I don't have much idea of what he was doing, but like I knew that he was doing something, as he said, for our people. There will be sometimes strangers come into our apartment and talk to him like for 5-6 hours. I started to complain, you don't spend time with us and you just only know to have to start clicking the keyboard on the computer. All you care about is your computer. And I used to complain a lot. My stepmother also complained. My brothers complained. That's the thing that I regret about a lot too. I should have been more supportive at that time. And my dad said, one day you would understand. And I understand now.
The Uyghurs have suffered tremendously inside the People's Republic of China. Ilham Tohti has called attention to that. He has not been demanding separatism, but demanding open information, open knowledge about what has happened to the Uyghurs, what their situation is. In 2009, when there were mass protests, people were arrested and disappeared, Ilham wanted an accounting of what had happened. He was addressing issues that they did not want addressed. And of course they warned him.
其实网站开始初期，我当时有一种面对，虽然问题想的没那么严重，但越来越08年有过，对，08年有过，今年这种语气更强烈，然后起雾的时候既然点出来，虽然我知道他的指控是没有道理的， 但呢，我就有更一种糟糕的准备，心理准备。但是到目前为止，虽然经历了很多压力，很多磨难，然后说你要包括我的家庭，包括新疆的亲人朋友，已经在生活层面中都影响了。
My dad was invited by you as a visiting scholar, and then he asked me, "Do you want to go to US for a vacation for a month?"
I had invited him out of my intellectual respect for him and also out of friendship, and I thought he would really be an asset for us.
Our flight's supposed to be at 11:30, and then usually people just have to get to the airport at 9:30. But we went out of our apartment at 4 a.m. I asked him why. He told me, because then there will be less possibility that we are followed. The police might be sleeping. We didn't even want to drive our car. We didn't want to be followed. We checked our bags, we got our tickets. I remember I took a photo of my father in the airport. He was smiling, and then me and my dad, we were in such happiness that, oh, we finally made it. We just needed the stamp on the passport for allowing us to get on the plane. At that time, they checked the computer, and the staff said, just wait, I have to call someone. Then a bunch of people with black suits came. They dragged my dad away. I was holding my dad's hand so tight. I was so afraid. The staff kept asking me, do I want to go? I didn't want to go at all. Then my dad started to speak in Uyghur. He didn't want them to understand. He said, I would prefer you to sweep the street in US than you stay here to suffer from them. He said, never come back, okay? Promise me.
When Jawhar first came to the United States, I picked her up at the Indianapolis airport, and she had not slept for 36 hours, and the last thing she'd seen in China was her father being taken away. She was now in the United States on her own, and her circumstances were very, very unclear.
It seems, definitely, it seems we're having some technical problems, so, but I'm sure they're solving it, and we'll see. I recommend we watch the end of the film rather than skip directly to handing the award. So be patient. I suppose in a few seconds we should be able to go on with the film, hopefully. If really we can't, it would be a shame. So guys, I'm sure you're doing your best up there to keep this going. If it's really impossible, let me know and we'll go on with the ceremony. But since I have no earplug, I'm going to have to go check, backstage to know what's going on. Be back.
happiness that, oh, we finally made it. We just needed the stamp on the passport for allowing us get on the plane. At that time, they checked the computer. And the staff said, just wait, I have to call someone. Then a bunch of people with black suits came. They dragged my dad away. I was holding my dad's hand so tight. I was so afraid. The staff kept asking me, do I want to go? I didn't want to go at all. Then my dad started to speak in Uyghur. He didn't want them to understand. He said, I would prefer you to sweep the street in US than you stay here to suffer from them. He said, never come back, okay? Promise me.
When Jawahar first came to the United States, I picked her up at the Indianapolis airport, and she had not slept for 36 hours, and the last thing she'd seen in China was her father being taken away. She was now in the United States on her own, and her circumstances were very, very unclear. And she persevered. She is extremely hardworking, extremely diligent. She has both turned herself into a regular university student, and she hadn't come for that, and at the same time, a real spokesperson for her father and for his ideas. And I think he would be extremely proud of her.
They give him life sentence. Life sentence.
What China is doing is extremely negative for China, is extremely negative for the Uyghurs, and it has ramifications beyond the borders of China. When you attack the moderates, as the Chinese state is doing, and attack them so harshly that someone like Ilham receives a life sentence for doing nothing that any liberal regime would consider a crime. In other words, he was simply expressing his opinion. When you do that, you leave the field open only to the extremists, who by definition are under the radar, and they become the only ones with whom the discontents of this population resonates. As a result, what China is doing is feeding extremism. So this is something which is very, very dangerous, and it's something the rest of the world really should pay attention to.
I think if more people internationally know about his case and know the truth, there's more possibility that we can release him one day. I think if I can ask him one question, I want to ask that if he knows that I'm trying to do all these things for him, and if he trusts me, that one day I can make it, I can succeed. I can finally get him out one day. I want to ask him if he believes in me and it believes in other people who are trying to help him. I hope he believes.
And now to officially hand the 2016 Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defender, I will ask UN High Commissioner Mr. Zaid Al-Hussein to please come back on stage, as well as welcome Jawar, Ilham, and University of Indiana Professor Elliot Sprouling back on stage. They will receive the award in the name of Ilham Tohti.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner Al-Hussein. I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to you, to the jury members for the Martin Ennals Award, and to all the people working on the award jury, and at all of the esteemed human rights organizations who have deliberated on the Laureate. It is a sad commentary on the state of affairs that there are so many worthy nominees and candidates. I accept this award on behalf of my father, Ilham Tohti, with great humility. Human rights defenders are like certain kinds of doctors. These doctors selflessly rush into regions plagued by devastating diseases to try and alleviate suffering, all the while knowing about the possibility of contracting the disease themselves. Human rights defenders plunge into areas of severe repression and misery to try and do something to alleviate the conditions, all the while knowing that the sick of arrest, imprisonment, and worse is always lurking in the background. I have had no contact with my father for over 2.5 years. The last time I saw him face to face, he was in the custody of the authorities at the airport in Beijing. When I was a child, many nights I would wake up seeing the view of his back as he typed away on the computer, turning out articles. I would sometimes ask why he was doing this and why he didn't stop and spend more time playing with us. He would smile and tell me how important it was to work for others, to work for our people. He said, I would understand this one day. And I did come to understand this. But this came through seeing the terrible price he was paying to stand up for the rights of his people and all people within the People's Republic of China. It is an honor for me to represent my father here. It is an honor for me to see that his work is recognized as just and right, not as something that deserves severe punishment. One day, very soon, I hope, he will learn about this. My father has always sought the basic human rights that are guaranteed to the Uyghurs and to all people. But he also knows that such rights must be protected, that their implementation cannot be accomplished by silence. And so his sole weapon in the struggle has been words. He was given a sentence of life imprisonment for this, something that is absolutely unbelievable. When I was young, my father always protected me. Now, when I'm an adult, I can do no less for him. He will be free one day. I know it. I know it. It is with great humility that I accept the Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defenders on his behalf. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And as we are nearing the conclusion of this ceremony, I would like to welcome back on stage Madame Sandrine Salerno, Consigliere of the City of Geneva, and who, over the years, as I said, and I mean it, has been deeply involved in the making of this ceremony and making this ceremony be hosted here in Geneva. Madame Sandrine Salerno.
Monsieur le commissaire, monsieur le recteur, mesdames et messieurs, chers amis et surtout chers lauréats. C'est un grand honneur de prendre la parole devant vous ce soir à l'occasion de la cérémonie de remise du prix Martin Ennals. Ce prix est une très belle manière de rendre hommage à des personnalités qui, on l'a vu ce soir, très souvent prennent d'énormes risques pour eux-mêmes, pour leurs proches, au nom d'une certaine idée de l'humanité ou tout simplement pour le respect de l'intégrité, de la liberté, là où ils et elles vivent. Mais mes sentiments ce soir, à cette occasion, sont mêlés. Il y a une joie, bien sûr, d'être présente parmi vous, de contribuer à la lutte pour les droits humains, mais il y a aussi de la peine, de l'émotion et de la colère. J'ai de la peine et de la colère en pensant à l'absence de 2 nominés sur 3. Madame Razan Zaitouneh, qui a été enlevée, on l'a vu, il y a plus de 3 ans avec son mari et ses collaborateurs. J'ai de la peine, de la colère en apprenant que M. Ilham Tohti est encore en prison pour avoir simplement attiré l'attention sur la situation de sa région. J'ai de la peine, de la colère en sachant que 6 des 9 blogueurs éthiopiens sont interdits de sortie dans leur pays. C'est cette peine et cette colère que je tenais à exprimer ce soir, tout d'abord, puisqu'il nous est impossible de féliciter directement les lauréats. Je ne peux qu'exprimer mon espoir que ce prix renforce la sécurité, l'influence des défenseurs des droits humains dans leurs pays respectifs, qu'il leur permettra de faire progresser les causes qu'ils défendent avec un courage qui nous laisse sans voix. Chers et chers nominés du prix Martin Ennals, ici présents, vos convictions, la force de vos actions forcent le respect. En conclusion, puisque je sais qu'on a un timing qui est très serré, je voulais terminer en partageant une réflexion avec vous sur la portée universelle des droits humains, qui m'est inspirée ce soir par l'absence de la plupart des nominés du prix Martin Ennals et aussi par certains débats récents en Europe et de manière générale aux Nations Unies. On entend de plus en plus fort un discours qui attaque le rôle de l'Occident comme modèle de l'état de droit et du respect des droits humains et qui va souvent jusqu'à critiquer le discours même des droits humains comme une forme d'impérialisme occidental. D'une certaine manière, un discours anticolonial est mobilisé pour justifier des politiques répressives, nationalistes et parfois totalitaires. Là où les droits de l'homme sont bafoués aujourd'hui, c'est le plus souvent au nom de la nation, de l'État ou de la communauté, ce qui est paradoxal et tragique à la fois. Paradoxal parce que les droits humains sont des principes d'émancipation, et tragique parce que l'on oppose de cette manière l'émancipation des individus, le bien des communautés et des nations. Pourtant, cette dimension prétendument anticoloniale de pratique de l'oppression contemporaine devrait nous interroger ici en Occident. Que répondons-nous à celles et ceux qui opposent de cette manière l'émancipation individuelle versus des valeurs collectives? Il y a presque 50 ans, en 1968, à l'occasion du 20e anniversaire de la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme, la philosophe genevoise Jeanne Hersch publiait sous les auspices de l'UNESCO un recueil sous le titre « Le droit d'être un homme ». Ce recueil contient des textes inspirés avant la lettre par la philosophie implicite de la Déclaration universelle de 1948. Afin de démontrer que les valeurs et les principes fondamentaux des droits de l'homme peuvent être trouvés dans toute culture et à toute époque de l'histoire et que ce ne sont pas une simple invention occidentale moderne. En consultant la table des matières, on voit que tous les thèmes ont été inclus. Le pouvoir et ses limites, la liberté, les droits sociaux, le droit contre la force, l'universalité. Et juste avant l'universalité, une section « Identité nationale et indépendance ». Je me contente ici de vous exprimer le sens de la position de Jeanne Hersch, sans avoir le temps d'argumenter plus en profondeur. La philosophe explique que si le concept des droits humains n'est pas lui-même universel, ce qui est assurément universel, c'est l'exigence fondamentale que quelque chose est dû à l'être humain parce qu'il est un être humain, et que quelque chose peut être un respect, un égard, une dignité, à savoir tout ce qui sauvegarde ses chances de faire de lui-même ce qu'il est capable de devenir. Ce qu'elle appelle aussi l'exercice de la liberté responsable. L'exigence est, politiquement, celle d'aménager des conditions favorables à la réalisation effective de cette liberté de devenir ce que l'on peut devenir. Mais au-delà de la formulation de tel ou tel droit, l'exigence qui fonde les droits humains est indubitablement universelle. Et cela permet de répondre à celles et ceux qui veulent opposer les droits nationaux ou les droits collectifs aux droits individuels. En effet, il est évident qu'un être humain a besoin d'être entouré, d'appartenir à une communauté pour exercer sa liberté responsable. Sans aucune attache sociale, elle n'a aucun sens. Mais alors, la violence et l'injustice commencent à ce moment-là, lorsque l'on oppose le collectif à l'individuel. Le mérite de Jeanne Hersch est de démontrer par l'acte que cette sagesse-là est aussi ancienne et aussi bien partagée que l'humanité elle-même. Et c'est cela, exactement cela, qui nous réunit ce soir auprès des 3 groupes nominés. Je vous remercie de votre attention et merci pour votre engagement et votre présence ici ce soir à Genève, car elle est primordiale. Je vous remercie.
So, this year, Martin Ennals Award for Human Rights Defenders ceremony has come to an end. Thank you very much for showing your support. You all know that this is deeply appreciated and also very, very much needed. And when you leave this ceremony in a short while and go back in the real world, do not forget to stand up for human rights. Wherever you are, whatever you do, whoever you're with, if you do witness somebody's right being disrespected, speak up. That's where it all starts. So, merci infiniment de votre présence pour cette soirée. See you all upstairs for the traditional buffet that's being offered by the city of Geneva. And if you're watching us abroad, well, no buffet, but you're more than welcome to share a drink or two in the honor of our laureates and their work. Merci infiniment. Très belle soirée à vous tous. Thank you very much. Very good evening.